Hey everyone, this is John Morgan here, and I want to welcome you to another hopefully awesome webinar hosted here by 2020. Today's topic is going to be a big topic, but as you can see, we're going to be talking about small spaces. So in today's agenda, the first thing that I want to talk about is easy workspaces. How do you set your 2020 up so that it's easy to work in these smaller environments? Number two, some tips. You all know that sometimes when you get into these small environments, it's a little bit, how shall I say, challenging maybe to be able to place things in certain areas. You'll get conflicts. Maybe it bounces to a place you weren't expecting. I'm going to show you how to quickly resolve that. Clever storage. Not only did I spend time preparing the 2020 side of this, but I did a lot of research online about tips and tricks in making the most out of small spaces. And probably the most popular thing that is online when it comes to small spaces is clever ways to create storage space, whether it's your closets and shelving and so forth. And I'm going to show you a little bit later. Don't forget that walls are storage areas as well. But we're going to spend some time talking about how we build these clever spaces. We'll also talk about bath ideas, because often in these environments, the bath is very small. You're going to have a sink, a toilet, a shower area, and a very compact area. And you'll notice that there's lots of new materials being used, new systems in place. For instance, showers. Having the floor level basically be the same floor throughout the kitchen with maybe just, the bathroom, with maybe just a half glass divider or something between the sink and the actual shower itself. I'll show you how to make that. We'll also talk a little bit about dual purpose zones. We need to be able to both have a prep area, a work area, and an eating area all in the same exact space. We'll build one. Walls, I mentioned before, using walls as storage. And then finally, this is actually the thing I'm most excited about, and I will tell you, I'm going to end with this. This is actually the item that I'm probably, or the feature I probably am the most excited about in the last 5 years from 2020, a brand new feature that I want to show you that I think you're all just going to love. So I'm going to go ahead and end on that as well. So let's jump right into this, and let's focus to begin with on the easy workspaces. So let me move over to my 2020, and let me go right into my floor plan. And here's what I talk about prepping your workspace. I've taken, what do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 work areas. I have kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, closet, and laundry room, all in a small, let's say, apartment type setting, condo type setting here. And one of the things that you know as a 2020 user is you start to draw more rooms than one on a screen. You have dimensions that are going to be showing inside, outside of walls. They're all important dimensions, but they may not be dimensions that you want to use in every case. How do we change that? Also, you'll notice that placement zones. Let's take a look down here at our closet area. When we drew the closet in here, you'll notice that the placement zones are on the outside of the wall. I actually want to place items inside of the closet, not on the outside. How do we quickly address items like that? Well, let me show you. Let's go ahead and close out of this plan. I actually have 4 plans I'm going to work with today. I'm going to go right into dimensions. Now, I mentioned before, and I cleaned the dimensions up ahead of time. That way, we didn't go through all the dimensions. But if you take a look at my system, let me zoom in on the closet area right here. You'll notice a couple of things in the closet section. Number one, I have some overlapping dimensions from this outside wall. Now, I may want to use those dimensions, or I may not. If I do want to use the dimensions, all I have to do is click on the dimension. Let's click on the dimension, grab hold of the line, and I can extend that dimension anywhere I need. Now it's no longer in my workspace. But a lot of times we hide dimensions. I like to hide dimensions in many cases. If I wish to remove a dimension from the screen, I simply right-click on the dimension. I highlight it, and there's an option here called Hide. I click on it, that dimension line is gone. I click on this 48-inch dimension line. I don't need the outside of that wall dimension. I'll hide it because all I care about really is my workspace, which is this 43.5 inches. That's what's important to me. So I can simply right-click on an item, and I can choose Hide to remove it from my screen. Now, where did those dimensions go? Let's say that you hid a dimension by accident, but you want to bring it back. I get that question all the time. Here's the simplest way to do that. Anywhere on your floor plan, not in the work zones, but anywhere on your floor plan, double-click on the plan, and if you give it a moment, it'll open up your display settings. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th tab over is called Hidden Items, and when I click on it, guess what? All of my dimensions that I hid from that original plan are listed here. So if I move this over and I just click on a dimension, watch what happens. When I click on it, you'll notice down here, that dimension line is the one that's activated. When I click on that one's activated. So you'll see where they are as you click. They'll actually flash on the screen for me as I click, and you'll see the dimension line. For instance, the 204 and the 16th is here. So if you ever wanted to bring a dimension line back, you simply click on it, click Display, and that dimension line will come back. Now, here's another issue or another item that I frequently get asked about. Sometimes when you adjust these dimensions, do you notice the lead and the end line are extended? Most of the time, you're looking to have a dimension line where the lead line is just off the outside of the wall. Well, you can change those. When I right-clicked on the dimension and I highlight it, I was going to hide before. You'll notice there's something here called Extend Left and Extend Right. If I click on Extend Left and move, I can move the left dimension line. And remember, the dimension lines are left because it's left if you were facing that wall. I can move that line down. I can click over here and say Extend Right, move that line down. And I can do the same thing for this dimension. Highlight it, go down to Extend Left, bring that guy down here, go down and click on it again, say Extend Right. We'll slide that one on down. Oops, hold on a second. I must have stopped. Let me do that one more time. Extend Right. We'll go ahead and we'll bring that on down here. Oh, I see what's going on. My 144 Extend Right is actually in the way. We can bring that one down too, and we're good to go. So it's really easy to make changes to your dimensions. Simply by right-clicking on them, you can quickly clean your screen up the way you want it to look. Now the next question is, how do you remove or change where the boundary lines are for your items? Let's go ahead and close out of this plan. We'll open up the placement zone plan. Same plan, I just already changed the dimensions. So if we take a look at this, let's zoom in. You'll notice that on this wall, on the bathroom wall, I have extra placement zone lines on the inside of the bath and on the outside of this wall. If we look down here at the bottom of the screen, I have outside placement zones when I really wanted inside placement zones. The easiest way to change this is to double-click on any wall. Doesn't matter which wall. Double-click on any wall. When you double-click on a wall, it happens to highlight the wall that you clicked on. So if you're only trying to change wall, click on that wall, and it'll allow you to change it. Now, I already know that the wall's down here at the bottom. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. Wall number 7. If I click on it, it'll highlight wall number 7. Click on wall number 8, it highlights wall number 8. Click on wall number 9, it'll highlight wall number 9. So I know that walls 7, 8, and 9 I wish to change. I change them all at the same time. I hold the Control key down on my keyboard, I click, click, all 3 walls are now selected, and while you're in the Properties button, if you click on Type, you can go to the placement zone and turn off either the inside or the outside placement zone. Now, I already know which one is the inside and outside because I drew this room, but you might be working with a partner. You might be looking at this and go, not sure which one's the inside or outside. Don't worry about it. If you clicked on outside and the wrong dimension or the wrong boundary lines turned off like mine did, all you got to do is click on outside again. They come back, click on inside, and all of these boundary lines have now disappeared. Now, somebody's going to ask, why were the boundary lines on the outside? The boundary lines were on the outside because I added these 2 rooms after I drew the rest of the rooms. And when I clicked, I actually started here. I drew them counterclockwise, which moved the placement zones to the other side. I can draw clockwise. I can draw counterclockwise. Doesn't matter. I just need to flip the placement zones when I need to. Now, the other placement zones that we talked about, let me zoom back up here again, and we'll zoom back in. We're over here. And again, if I simply double-clicked on a wall, it'll highlight the wall that I wish to change, this 96-inch wall, which was wall number 10, and the other wall happens to be wall number 6. I select both of these. I simply go into type. I turn off outside placement zones in this case, and all of my dimension lines and all of my boundary lines are going to be exactly as I wish them to be. Now, you typically don't have to do a lot of that, but I know I get questions all the time about why this is here or why that's there. It's very easy to resolve both of those simply by either double-clicking on the floor plan for dimensions or by coming down here and double-clicking on the wall to move the placement zones. Now, let's jump back over to our PowerPoint for just a second. Let's move into the second phase, which are going to be some tips for small spaces. All of you, I know everybody runs into the same issues when it comes to working in confined spaces and corners in 2020, and you want to be able to quickly place items and have them snap together. Let me give you a couple quick tips for that before I actually start designing a laundry room and a closet. So let's switch back over to 2020. We'll come back in. I'm going to close out of the placement zone. And you'll notice that I've taken the same plan. So every floor plan I've shown you is basically the same plan. I just named it different names. And this is the plan where I've designed most of the rooms. Now, typically, before I do anything in a plan, the first thing that I do after I draw the walls, I always draw walls first. After I draw the walls is I create a perspective. I go up to the top, I click perspective, and you'll notice on my screen I actually have a perspective already open of my rooms. And you'll see they look pretty big when you're looking at the floor plan sometimes, but if you take a look over here at my little bedroom, this bed takes up almost the entire room. Now somebody's going to ask me where that cool, awesome bed came from, or the bed frame. I haven't put a mattress on it yet. That's actually a Trimble or SketchUp image that I imported, and we're going to import some other images later on. So you can get some really cool images. There's literally millions of images that you can use throughout your rooms that you can import from other programs. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But you'll see that I have a bedroom. We'll pull back out here. I have a closet. I have a laundry room. This kitchen looks a little bit bigger. It's really tiny. There's not much walk-through space. When I start opening and closing the doors, you'll see there's very little space in there whatsoever. And we're going to work on a kitchen, on a bathroom here, and I'm going to build a shower and some other items into the bath. So the first thing I want to do, though, is I want to focus on my kitchen. So we're going to focus right here on the kitchen. And I want you to notice something that I do as I navigate. I like to use a perspective, and I actually navigate rooms not through walls. I typically am not walking through doors or walking through walls or trying to move around, because sometimes as you're moving around through items, you kind of lose your perspective of where you're going to be. So I often will actually zoom out and simply hold the wheel on my mouse and move the rooms around where I want to be, and then I use the wheel to roll back in to where I want to be in that room, and then I focus on that room. Now, right now, I'm a bit above it. Later on, you'll see I'll go down to a normal eye level as if we were standing in the room. But for me, navigating plans that have multiple rooms, even though these are all tiny rooms, we have multiple rooms together. Navigating works quickest if I move above it, focus where I want to go, and then zoom right back into it. That's a little trick that I use. Now let's look at this corner over here on the right-hand side. Anybody who's a 2020 user understands what I'm about to talk about when it comes to maybe some difficulties you have in corners. Now, first of all, I noticed that my dishwasher's pushed back against the wall. So let me just click on in, out, and we'll slide this guy right on out here to the front, and we will line that up properly. Now, if you look here in this corner, you have a diagonal line. If I take my cursor and I put it to the right of the diagonal line, when you look at this box over here, the information box, it tells me that I only have 22 inches of base space from the corner to the wall, to the door trim. If I move my cursor to the other side of that line, it tells me that I have 15 3/8 of an inch of space. So I can put a base 15 in there. So let's go to our catalog. We'll come over here to my catalog, under drag and drop, I'm going to scroll down here just a little bit, and we will go down to the generic catalog, sample F, which is a framed generic catalog. Now, I'm going to go into base cabinet, base door drawer, base standard, and I'm going to grab a 15 right-hand hinge. I'm going to drag it over here, and most people will try to drop it here, or they'll try to drop it back here in this corner on that side of the line and snap it into the corner, but you'll notice it doesn't snap in. It wants to put it on a diagonal, which is an awesome feature when you're trying to put something on a diagonal. It's cool that it does that, but that's not what we want to do right now. Here's the fastest way for you to put that cabinet in the corner. Click on the dishwasher, the item on the left. Double click on the base 15 in the list, and it will snap it right into place. Now let me back that up. It actually snapped it in because I just moved my dishwasher forward. So it actually snapped it in a little bit forward, but it snapped it right into that place. If I zoom in here and look, there we go. I have a filler space left, which is very, very tiny. I can do the same thing. I can click on the base 15. I can drop down here to my drag and drop. To my search, type in BF3 for my filler. If I double click on a 3-inch filler, it automatically puts the filler in there, and it trimmed it to fit. I know a lot of people move everything out of the way, then they move the cabinet in or the filler in first. You don't need to do that. All you need to do is click on the item on the left, double click what you want in the list, and it will snap into place. Now typically I'll get the question of, or the comment, hey, that doesn't work on the left. And you are correct. That does not work on the left. Let me show you how I normally place things in tight spaces, especially something like a filler. Let's go ahead and undo what I did. I'm going to undo both the cabinet and the filler. Let me zoom back out of here again, and I am going to double click in the workspace on that wall so that I can open up an elevation. When I work in confined and tight spaces, and I want to make sure that I place something, let's say in this space right here, and I don't want to worry about what's happening on the other wall, I actually almost always do it in elevation. So if I come down here and get a B15, I can grab a base 15 right, simply drag it over to the space, drop it into place. Whoops, it's going to tell me it's not available. Here's why. I was too far to the right. If you drop it over here, it always measures left to right. There's not enough room. If I take that and drop it right next to the dishwasher, though, there's plenty of room for that. I say plenty of room. Actually, if I zoom in and you look right here, I think I only have like 3/8 of an inch or something left over. But you can go in now and simply say, I want the BF3. I can drag that over, put the tip of the arrow in that open space and drop it, and it trimmed it to 3/8 of an inch. So that's one of my favorite tricks when I'm talking to designers and they say that they're in a small confined space. How do I work in corners? How do I make things work? My first comment is open up an elevation. Because once you open up an elevation, it's only concerned with the space you have on this wall. It's not worried about what's on that adjoining wall right now. Now, if there is something that will conflict, it will stop you from doing that, but it's not going to try to turn things on angles and diagonals and things like that. So that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and let's minimize this screen and let's go back to our floor plan. So that's one quick tip that I have when it comes to placing things in corners. The next thing I want to move to is something that's a little more fun now. Those were basics. Let's start talking about how we actually design in these rooms. And let's start with closets. I know I'm getting more and more and more and more and more questions when it comes to closets. Everybody wants to, when you have your crew in a house, be able to work in more rooms of the home. Because if you're working in more rooms, that means you're making more money. So more rooms, more money is what I always say. So let's go back and let's take a quick look at our plan. So I'm going to go back to my floor plan, and down here is what I wanted to make my master closet. And the best way to organize in a small space is to be able to create an environment like this, organize it with shelves, drawers, and everything to maximize the usage of this small room. So here's how we're going to do that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to open up an elevation. And if I pull this down, you'll notice that tab number 2 is actually already an elevation of that wall. So we're going to work on this in just a moment. The other thing that I want to do is, actually, let me go ahead and just make that full screen for you so it'll be easier to see. The other thing I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about navigating in a perspective. So here's my perspective. I mentioned that when I'm moving room to room, I typically will move out of the room into the ceiling. I might move in, and let me just turn this a little bit, and I will tilt this and actually move, let's move in just a little bit more and kind of move my way down so I'm standing, and I'm going to look up, and I'm going to look right at this closet door. Now, there's a couple of things that I can do here. I can actually open that closet door if I want to and look inside of that room, or I can remove this wall. Does anybody know how to do that? There's actually a couple of ways to do that. When you're working in a perspective, see the little ghost toolbar down here at the bottom. Right here in the center where you have your little dial where you move right, left, up, and down. If you move to the right a little bit, the feature just to the left of the gear is called clipping. Now before I clip, let me just adjust so I can move down a little bit closer to the floor and maybe just take one more step backwards. Let's do that. Okay. Now, when I click on clip, you're going to see a little floor plan down here at the bottom. If you roll your wheel in on the floor plan, you'll see where you're standing. I'm standing right here at this camera. I'm looking forward. And if you choose to turn this item on right now where it's called Enable Disable Clipping, I'm going to enable it. If I move forward, a little red circle will move forward in that little plan that you see, and everything that red circle touches, it makes it disappear. So if it touches the front edge of your bed, your entire bed will disappear. If it touches the wall, like I'm about to do, watch. When I touch the front edge of this wall, that wall disappeared. I'm actually looking inside of the closet. This is the back wall for the closet. Now, there's another way to do that too, and that is if I click on the clipping option, see right here where it says camera? For anyone who has used 2020 for years, there used to be a feature in 2020 where you would move a line forward and it would literally stop drawing at that line. And if you put that line right in the middle of a base cabinet, it would actually cut the base cabinet in half and show you half a drawer, half a door, half of everything. Well, if you choose camera, that's the old feature. That will literally cut anything in half that it's touching, whereas the object button makes the whole object disappear. I tend to use the object button. I prefer that, but you could always use the camera button. But again, remember where it is, at the bottom of your screen where the gear is. Click on this feature right here called clipping, put a little check mark next to enable, and then you can slide this forward and that circle gets a little bit larger and everything it touches will disappear. So now I'm looking into my closet. So it'll make a lot more sense once I actually build a closet. Now, before we move into building a closet from scratch, let's do a couple of quick things. Let's talk about catalogs. You'll see here in your list of catalogs, as I scroll down, I've downloaded a couple of catalogs. Did you know that 2020 has a ton of catalogs that have closet information in them, closet components, real-life closet components that you can use? For instance, if I download the task lighting and I go in and choose interior closet rods, I'm just going to right-click on the 30-inch closet rod and I hit View in Place. Did you know, it's asking me if I want to load another catalog, and I do. Did you know that you can put a task lighting closet rod in that's LED lit from the bottom? So you can actually turn your closet rods on inside of your closet, and I can tell whether it's a blue or a black suit in the dark. Great little feature. I can also go into, let's say, Revishelf, which is my next one listed. Revishelf has a whole catalog full of closet components. I can go in here and say I'd like to look at armoires. I'd like to go and choose a gentleman's armoire, and I'd like to click on View in Place, and I can turn it, and it actually has a mirror on the other side, which will reflect what's in the room. Talk about great use of space. I can go in here and choose other items, closet mirrors, jewelry stands. I always liked lazy shoe zens. I think that's pretty funny. So, if I clicked on a lazy shoes in, you'll see that I have a revolving shoe rack that I can put in the closet. These are catalogs that anybody who uses 2020 can access. If I go down one more, let's just drop down one more. There's one I was using at KBiz a lot that I really liked, Lifespan. Lifespan actually has all the closet components. Shelves, you'll see the previews here at the top. Rods, drawers. You can see I can pick a 4-high, an 8-high, a 12-high drawer. I can pick doors. So I can build closets by component. I can even go into the accessories and say, I want a tie scarf organizer, which you'll see here. I would like to have a tie belt or a pull-out or a tie belt or a shoe rail or anything else. Now, the next question you should be asking me if you're not using these is, where do I find these? Pretty easy. If you go to our website, 2020.net, really simple, 2020.net, just type that in. If you go into 2020.net and you log in, if you haven't logged in before, you need to sign up and create a login based on your security number, your KCDU number for 2020. Go ahead and sign in, and when you do that, it takes you right to manufacturers. You can click on this arrow, and you'll find all sorts of manufacturers' catalogs for all sorts of products. We're talking about closets right now, but this is where you download them from. So write that down, 2020.net. If you're not doing that, the catalogs I'm showing you right now, I downloaded Sunday. So they're all sitting there. You can do all the same things that I'm doing right now. Now let me go back into our plan for a second, and let me show you something else that I really think is cool. If you're really looking to expand your business and sell closets and be able to meet the needs in small spaces, 2020 has another option. Now this is an upgrade that you would have to do to your software to do that, but let me show you how you do this. You can actually upgrade your software to be able to use what we call Flex. I'm going to click on Flex. It's a module that you add to 2020. And let me show you why so many people, and I'm going to tell you right now that when people are purchasing 2020, it's more than a third are actually doing closets as well, and they're bringing in or they're purchasing the Flex catalogs too. Let me show you how they work. If I take a panel run, drop it into place, it's going to ask me some questions. Clearances, right, left, default sections, heights. How many sections are in your closet? I'm going to tell it that I want 3 sections in this closet because I have a really small bedroom. You saw that my bed takes up, I got a queen size bed in there. It takes up almost that entire room. I could probably get 1 dresser drawers in there comfortably, and everything else I'm going to be stubbing my toe and everything as I walk around that bed. So what I need to do is maximize my closet storage. So we'll click OK on the 3. I will simply expand it to go all the way right to left. And we'll give it a second, and it's going to build all the components. So it just went around and figured out all the components that it needs to build this unit. And I can get a list of these components. Now, if we go back and take a look at our perspective, you'll notice there's a closet here. 3 components of closet. I'll talk about lighting in a minute. We'll make that a lot prettier later. Now, when I go in and I place these items, so we've placed all 3 items, I can modify these just like I can modify any item that I would place. I can go in and say attributes by right-clicking on it. It comes up and you'll see that it's kind of translucent right now, but if I right-click on it, I can have it with an outline mode. If I right-click again, it can be wireframe, but there's my closet. I'm going to go to the variables tab. And I know half of you use variables, half of you don't. I use variables all the time for lots of things, and you're about to see why. If I click on section 1, it's always left to right. Section 1 is the left. I can come down here, and right now it says section 1 is 30 3/16 of an inch. I want it to be 24 inches. When I click OK, that is now 24 inches. And if I go back and take a look at this, 24, 34 1/4, 34 1/4. What 2020 does is once you dimension or change the dimensions of one item, it'll take the rest of the space and divide it equally by the sections that you defined. So we made that 24, and I could define each one if I wanted, but I'm not going to do that right now. So let's go back in here. So here we are. We're in our section. Now I can start to populate this. Now let me explain how brilliant this is. If I go in the shelves and I choose a fixed shelf and drop it, watch what happens. As I move, it jumps. What's it jumping to? Every time it jumps, it's jumping to a drilling in the panel. It knows, it's a 32 millimeter system, it knows where each drilling is, where each shelf hole would be on this panel. So it automatically jumps to that shelf hole. If I go to an adjustable shelf and I drag this over and do the same thing, you see it sized, it cut to the opening, exactly with the opening because it knows the panel thicknesses and everything. As I move up and I stop right here, what I want you to notice is these do not line up. If I grab hold of this and I move this, it jumps. It doesn't line up. Why doesn't the fixed shelf line up with the adjustable shelf? It's because it's smart. It knows that there's a pinhole right here. A fixed shelf has a pin that goes right into the pinhole and is in the middle of the shelf, whereas an adjustable shelf sits on top of the pin. They don't line up in real life. And it doesn't here either because it's smart. It's intuitive. So let's go back and let's delete these and let's build a quick closet. So let me drop down here again. So I was just putting shelves in. Let's go and do something quickly. We want to go in here and do sections. I'd like to put some drawers here with some shelves above it. Well, I can just drop down to a section and say drawers and shelving. Drop it into place, slide it over and click. And when I click on this, it's going to take a second, but it's going to build this out with drawers and shelving. Maybe I want to use the right-hand side to hang. I actually hang all of my clothes, so I really just want hangers everywhere. But you're going to fold some people are going to hang some, so let's do a double hanger. So we'll come over here to the double hanging system, drop it into place, click on it, and it'll drop it in, and you'll see now that you have two hanging sections. All the components are real sized, and we know the dimensions, and we can print out all the components it takes to build this. Now, center section. Let's say we go back. We go in here and we choose panels, or shelves, actually, is what I wanted. I'm going to put some adjustable shelves in. I'll just drop it in. I'm going to go up here and kind of snap it in there. We'll move in here. We'll put another one in. I'm going to snap it in alignment with that drawer. We'll put another one in, and maybe we'll snap that one in here. Maybe I'll just put one more here in the middle, and that's my section. I have built a closet that quickly. If I go in here now and take a look at it, there's my closet. That fast. Now, let's say you want to put a door on that side. Okay. If I come back down here and I choose doors, overlay door, I'd like to drag a door over and I'll drop it. Watch when I drop it. If I move, it actually sizes the doors depending on where I am. I want to put a door there. If we come back and take a look at it again, it has a door on it. Not only can I do that, but I can decorate it too. I can go in, let's go ahead and move this up just a little bit. I can go into 2020 Cloud. I hope everybody's using 2020 Cloud. If you're not using 2020 Cloud, you better daggone register for it right now, because I will tell you that I use it constantly in my designs. In the next half an hour that we have left, you're going to see me using it constantly. I'll go in and I'll choose something. Like I'm in the generic 2020 catalog right now. So let's go in here and let's choose a category. So we're going to go up and I'm going to look for clothes, which I believe are under the general items. So we'll scroll down here. There's some clothes, dresses, shoes, pants, so forth. I'm going to go ahead and grab this hanging skirt. We'll go ahead and we will click and put this on the plan. There it is. See it moving around? I will turn it. I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to put it in the third section here. We'll drop it in. You can see it right here. If I move up, drop it on the hanger. Let's go back and take a quick look. I have a hanging skirt now in that closet rod. If I wanted to go back again, let's say we go back in here again, back in the 2020 Cloud. I'll scroll up and grab, let's grab this pair of shoes right here. I'll go ahead and I'll say, okay, let's add these. We'll float these in. I'm just going to snap them in here to the center section. And if you give it a second, I can grab hold of this. And I'm going to move it up. And let's say we sit it on the second shelf. Come back in here, take a quick look now. I have a pair of shoes, which are backwards. I should have turned them around. That's my fault. But you'll see that the shoes are snapped in and the hanging skirt's snapped in there as well. Now, let's address lighting for just a second. Everybody should be looking at this and going, hey, John, it's pretty dark in that room. How do we adjust that? Let me give you a couple tricks. Number one, if I click on the light bulb, choose the light bulb, there's an option here called ceiling. A lot of people, when they work in these small rooms, will go under ceiling. They'll turn the light on to 60 watts. And if you look right down here, see right down here, there's a little yellow circle here. You can move that light around anywhere you want. So I can adjust where that light is. Notice the shadow on the skirt changing on my screen. And even my backward shoes are showing the toe openings with the shadow. You can move that around. Now, a lot of people don't like this light. And here's why. You notice it makes kind of like a really bright circle up here at the top? A lot of people don't like that. And I don't like that either. So here's what I typically do. I actually don't turn that light on. I use lights from the Room catalog. There's a catalog here under drag and drop called Room. If I go into the Room catalog, let's take just a moment to move down here. I'm sorry, I keep saying room. I meant room furniture. Correction. Anybody watching the tape of this, the recording of this, I should say. Room furniture. I'm going to go down here to lighting fixtures. I'm going to take a recessed light, and we're going to take a spotlight, just a recessed light. I'm going to drop it right here in the middle of the floor. And let me show you something I'm going to do with this. It's pretty cool. Let's zoom in on this. Actually, we can get rid of our elevation now. So let's zoom in on that light. Here's something I do that's pretty cool. Number one, I right-click on it and I go to its properties. You can make it whatever brightness you need. I'm going to say it's 60 watts. And see down here where it says profile? That shows you how it's going to disperse the light. So if I come down here and say round, you'll see that it has more of an even dispersion of the light. If I had clicked on tight focused, that's a very narrow light. You know, we could use that under a cabinet or such, but let me just go ahead and do round. Excuse me. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to double click on this light because I want to show you something. This light has properties. Hold on just a second. Let me do that again. This light has properties. If I can open it back up again. So let's right click on that. There we go. For some reason it didn't do it the first time I clicked on it. So let's go into the light, and I want you to notice that this light is this lovely black cylinder or circle here. A lot of times people want to put lights in rooms, but they want to hide them. They want light, but they don't want to see the light. Let me show you a little trick. One of the designers, one of our top designers, a guy down in Northern Virginia, Anthony Johnson, taught me earlier this year. If you go into variables, there's an option right here called properties. See where it says display 3D? If you turn this off and say no, the light disappears, but the light is still there. So if I were to go back and take a look at my perspective, there's still light. See the light coming down through the shelves right here? There's still a light. But if you were to look at the ceiling, look up, there's no light in the ceiling itself. It creates light without showing a light. So again, the way we did that was we right-clicked on the light, we went to its attributes, we clicked on variables, and under the feature called, right here, called properties, we simply changed the answer to no, and the light disappears. Now I could take this light, and I could say duplicate. I'd like to take this light, I'd like to put one here, I'll slide this one over here, I'd like to right-click on it again, I'd like to take it, I'd like to duplicate it, we'll click here, we'll slide this guy over here, and then if I come back in and I take a look at my closet, look at the difference in lighting. Matter of fact, look at the skirt. You can actually see there's a pattern on the skirt now, and you see reflections and so forth. But I'm really disappointed in myself that I have the shoes turned the wrong way. We can always go back and turn those around. So let me come back in. Let's take my shoes. I'm going to move those out to here, and I'm going to turn them. I'm going to move them back in. We'll snap them back in. Let's bring our elevation back up so that I can move my shoes back up. And let's go back and take a quick view of this again. And now my shoes look better. I can now sleep well at night tonight. So there we go. Now, let me close back out of here because there's other rooms that you may be working in that are small rooms that are very similar. If you move into shelving and clever storage, I've noticed a lot of things online, and you can see I actually pulled out and attributed a number of these items from online where they have recommendations, and all small design. Everything I see is shelf, shelves, storage with shelves, and a lot of those aren't shelves. They're actually drywall and 2x4s and things like that. They're not shelves that we're buying off the shelf. We're actually building those in place. Now let me show you how you can do something like that as well. So let's come back into our 2020, and there's our closet again. So let's come back into 2020. Let's take a look at our floor plan. So I'm going to minimize this, and let's zoom in right here. This is where our laundry room is going to be. Now if I go over to my catalog right now, and I choose, let's say we choose the GE catalog. If I choose the GE catalog from my cloud catalog, and I click here, you'll notice that I have a plethora of GE electric dryers. If I go in here, I can choose washers. I can place them in there. But you know what? They're not going to work in here because this isn't deep enough. If I put a 31.5-inch deep dryer in here, I'm not going to be able to squeeze into the room, nonetheless open the door. So in an application like this, I really need a top and bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here to our regular appliance catalog. I'll go to laundry, and I'll choose a washer-dryer combo, drop it into place, slide it over. There's my washer and dryer. Now see this space right here? If I click within the boundaries of both walls, I can double-click on these. And if you give me just a second, what will happen is it will open up an elevation of both walls. I can now add shelves. How would I build shelves? Well, first of all, if I go over to the cloud catalogs and I change back to my 2020 catalog, if I go and I look for shelves, you'll see that shelves are actually listed in a menu here. Hold on just one second as I move across here. If I go up to the decorative items, so let's move up to decorative, move down to decorative maybe. You'll see shelves and brackets right here. Well, we have a list of shelves. So if I wanted to put brackets underneath of a shelf and I was going to place a shelf on top of it, I can do that. I can slide this bracket over. But because I'm already behind time, I'm not going to put those in. I'm actually going to show you how I would build a shelf. Here's how I would build a shelf. I would go to the 2020 catalog called Room. In the Room catalog is a feature called Architectural Elements. When I choose architectural elements, there's a feature here called Custom Shape, and I love custom shapes. I use them constantly. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Custom Shape. I'm going to choose a horizontal shape, and I'm going to drop it up here. Now, why am I dropping it up here? I'm dropping it up here because I need room to modify this. If I tried to drop it here, it wouldn't go in. So I'm going to right-click on this and go to its attributes. I'm going to change the size. I'm going to say the width is 15 inches, the height is 2 inches, the depth is 15 inches. I'm going to go to variables. Remember I talked about variables before, about adding textures? I'll click on the texture and say, you know what? Let's make this wood. I want this to be furniture wood, generic wood, and I'd like it to be a walnut shelf in a semi-gloss finish, and I'm going to choose walnut with a horizontal grain. Click it. There we go. If I click OK, I can now take this shelf, slide it over. I need to hit drag, actually. Drag it over, and then I can place it here. I can go in and say, let's duplicate this. So let's place another one here. Let's duplicate this one. So we'll go in again. We'll duplicate it. Oops, hold on just one second. My mouse is giving me a little bit of a fit here. Let me do that one more time. Hold on. Okay, one more time. Let me just duplicate it up here. That way I can slide it down. But I can put my shelves in anywhere that I want. And if I come back and take a quick look at this, you'll actually see, and remember, I like to tilt, come back out of the room, I adjust where I'm going to be, and I can either look through the wall, or for right now, just for expediency, I'm actually going to, hold on just a second, for expediency, oh, I know what's going on. I have left my clip on. I don't want my clip to be turned on. So I turn my clip off, and now I can move over here, and you can see that I've added these shelves to this room. Now I can also do this. Did you notice that when we go back to our PowerPoint, that these shelves all have horizontal and vertical pieces? They're actually building intricate systems for shelves. You can do that too. So if I go in here and say, this is the other wall. The wall that you're looking at on the right is this wall right here. So I can go in and say, I would like to duplicate this. And I'm going to place it on this wall. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a slight modification to it. First of all, there's not enough walk-through space on that shelf. So if I right-click on this shelf and go to its attributes, I can go in and say its width is actually 36 inches, its height is 2, but its depth is only 12 inches. I need 3 more inches of walk-through space. So I'll take this shelf, I'll drag it over, I'll right-click on it, and I will say drag. And then I'll take that shelf now and I'll say duplicate. We'll duplicate the shelf. We'll move it over. We can move it up. We'll snap it into place. And I'll take this shelf and I'll say duplicate it. Click here. Slide it over. Now, I'm just doing this with the mouse right now. Obviously, you would figure exact dimensions. I can go ahead and click this again. We'll right-click it one more time. We'll duplicate it. And let's make some horizontal pieces. So when we click on that, all I have to do is go into its attributes and change it. It was 36 inches wide. I actually want it to be 2 inches wide. I want it to be 45 inches tall. We'll adjust that in a minute. And then I want it to be depth as 12 inches. That's fine. I'll click OK. And when I click OK, I can take this, move it up and down, and I can actually slide it over to be a part of, by using drag, be a part of these members. So I can move this over. Actually, let me just leave it as it is. I'll hit the Control key, and I'll move it over and say, I want to put one here. And then I will take that piece. I will duplicate it. We'll put it back out here again. We'll move it back down. We'll move it back over. Now, how am I getting it to slide inside of that unit? I'm getting it to slide inside of that unit by holding the Control key down. The Control key allows me to break the barrier, and that's why these lines are red. But don't worry about the lines being red, because if you're going to build that in the field, you're going to take care of this. You'll cut everything so it fits appropriately. I can actually right-click on the screen and go to Display Settings. And under Display Settings, I can simply tell it, under Warning Patterns, to turn off the red lines. That way we don't scare the customer away, because we're going to make this right in the field. We're just trying to make something that looks gorgeous for the customer. So if we come back and we take another look at this, if I come and I turn, actually, let me come down here, and let's do something a little bit different this time. Let's open that door. We'll take this door. I'm going to go into the door itself, highlight it, go back into its attributes. Remember I told you I use variables all the time? I use them all the time. See where it says open door? I simply type in 90 degrees. When I click OK, that door is open. When we come back and take a look at our perspective, you'll see that the door is open. I can walk into that room and I can look up, and I have that storage space that we were talking about before. I can build it out of any material, anything I want, anywhere I want, just like when we were looking at these images before. Now, one of the things I often do, especially in small spaces, and I'm a little bit behind schedule here, so I'm not going to do this but one time. A lot of times what I do is I like to dimension things. So I'll go in right now to Annotations. I'll choose line to line, and I'll ask it how far is it from the inside of the trim of the door to the front edge of the unit I just built. I have 31 inches of space there. This would not have worked if the door opened the other way, but because my door opens in this direction, I do have space to walk in. It's a little bit tight. Might be tight with that laundry basket, but you know what? It's a small space. I'm going to get maximum storage out of this area. Even though I might have to turn my hips in the laundry basket a little bit, I still have 31 inches of space there. So that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and back out of here, and let's zoom back out. And let's go back into our plan, and let's go to the next item, which is bathrooms. Let's talk a little bit about bathrooms. There's a lot you can do in a similar space if you keep the floors the same and add things like these glass panels. Let me show you how I would do that in 2020. We're going to come back out of here, and let's zoom back over here to our floor plan. And let me go back. Let's go back out of our plan here again like we've been doing. And let's turn back to the bath item. And we are, whoops, hold on just a second. I got myself even confused on that one. So we'll turn back down here. And what I'm going to do is I want to look into the room first, and then I'll show you some of the things that we can change. So we'll walk into the room. Hold on. I'm usually a little bit smoother about that. But when you look in this room, you'll see that we have a shower. I was playing around with somebody earlier today, and I left the dog standing in the shower. Shower's not turned on yet. You'll see that we have handles on the right-hand side. If I walk in a little bit further into this room, you'll notice that there's a drain in the floor. And on the right-hand side, if I walk in a little bit further and I turn, you'll notice that there's a Kohler sink, Kohler toilet, and everything in this room. Now, how did we place these items? First of all, let's talk about the drain. The drain can be found in the room plumbing catalog. So if I come back over here to my catalogs and I choose room plumbing, I'm going to go down here to where we have showers, toilets, bidets. You'll see where it says faucet, manual placement. That's where you find things like drains because you can manually place these. You can also place things like shower and bath faucets, shower heads and faucets. You know, if I go in and choose, let's say, a tower shower head and faucet, I can drag this over to the plan, right-click to turn it the direction I need it to face, slide it over, snap it right into place. And if we come back in and we take a look at this, I can tilt this and look up. There's my tower. Now, where did I get the Kohler stuff? That's pretty simple. You've already seen me go to it a gazillion times. I use it all the time, the cloud. If I come over here and I click on catalogs, there's a Kohler catalog. If I click on the button, drop down here to Kohler, click on it, you'll see toilets, bidets, pedestal sinks, bathtubs, showers, and on and on and on. They're all listed here. I simply drag those over into the room. I don't have a lot of room for a cabinet, but I did have room for that pedestal type sink. Now, what I came in here really to show you was how to put that glass panel in. But before I put the glass panel in, I want to talk a little bit about the floor. If you take a look at the shower wall and the shower floor, I often get questions of how is the floor two different materials here? I have a shower material, floor material, but they're on the same plane. Well, that's pretty easy too. Let me show you how I do that. Do you remember under the room catalog? I'm going to come back here under room, and this works on the walls too. Remember the room catalog where I chose, give me 1 second here, where I chose the architectural element and I went to the custom shape? Well, they have floor shapes too. I can grab a floor shape. I can drop this on the floor. I can double click on it. I can go in and say the width is 36. Let's say it's 60. Width is 60. The height is 0.25. I always make it less than an inch. So 0.25. I always use 1/4 inch. And the depth on the item is going to be, let's say it's 36 inches. Now, when I click on that, I have a floor. I can go back to variables. Again, I use variables all the time. Click on the texture button, and I can either use a generic texture, or I can go to the textures I've already used in the drawing, or I can go to textures that I loaded from websites. These are textures that I downloaded from tile sites. So if I clicked on that tile, there's my floor, and that's what my floor would look like in my bathroom. That's one way. Here is another way. This is my favorite way, actually. Items. I go over to Surface, and I click and trace the room. I'm going to do it in the kitchen. Trace, click, click, click. Everywhere there's a turn, I'm clicking. Click, 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 click. We're going to go all the way to the end of this wall, click, all the way to the corner and click, all the way up and click, around the base cabinet and click. Now, a lot of times we would do this before we even put the cabinets in, but I've already put the cabinets in. This gives you a trace of the floor. I can click on the Browse button. I can go into Textures and scroll down and find one of the textures in 2020 or one that I've imported. I have a walnut, like a walnut type wood floor here. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. There's my floor. That's what the floor is going to look like in my kitchen that fast. All I had to do was go over here to the surface button and trace the floor area. Now let me go back into the bath because here's what I really wanted to show you. I wanted to show you how to put the glass panel there. So if we come back in and take a quick look, remember I want a glass panel right here between the dog and that sink. I'm going to go back to the room catalog and I'm going to take a cube again. These cubes can be just about anything you want them to be. I'm going to drop this. This time when I double click on it to edit it though, I'm going to make the width 30 inches. I'm making it basically half the length of the shower. The height is going to be 84 inches. The depth will be 0.25 inches. Actually, no, we don't want quarter-inch glass, do we? We will get in trouble for that. So either half inch, 3/4. I'm going to go to variable where it says obstacle color. I'll click this, and again, all the generic textures are here. All I have to do is say, I want glass, furniture, generic, glass, clear. I'm going to go ahead and go with clear glass, click OK. This is now see-through. I took that solid object that I made a floor earlier, I made a wood shelf earlier, and if I come back in and take a look at it, there's actually a glass. Oh, hold on a second. I didn't float it over yet, did I? Here we go. I'm going to hold the control key to move it into place and break the barrier. And I'm going to snap it into place. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at it. And there is now glass in between. Matter of fact, you can see the light reflecting off of it. If I move up just a little bit and we tilt down just a little bit, maybe that'll help you see it a little bit better, you can see that there's now glass. Doesn't go all the way to the ceiling. 84 inches up, I now have glass in that room. I used an obstacle to change that again. Now, I'm almost at the top of the hour, so I'm going to throw a warning out to everybody. I still have a couple of things I want to do. I'm running probably about 10 minutes behind. So, Amy, just throwing that out to let you know that I'm still going to go for 10 more minutes unless you stop me. So let me show you a couple more quick things that I really like about small spaces. Let's talk a little bit about what I call the dual purpose zones. This is something I found online. This is actually Jarrett or Sheeta was showing this about, and I was reading some things that he had written and some others had written about how important it is in small kitchens to be able to have items have more than one purpose in your room. For instance, the purpose of this countertop is eating. The purpose of the countertop is also for being able to get to prepare your food and sit and do your work, and there's all sorts of things that you're going to need to do at this countertop. So I'm going to show you how I would build something like this and put stools around it just like Jared did here. So let's come back into our drawing and let's move back over, and you'll notice in this room that I have a little island in here. Now you're going to look and say, hey, there's a lot of room here. Well, there's really not a lot of room. If I come over here and I say annotations and I do some dimensioning, let's say I want to know how far it is from here to the edge of the back of that island. It's only 25 and a half inches. There's not a lot of room. And this door, if I were to open this door, let me go in here and open this door for a second. So let's go in and let's go to attributes. Because it's not just the overall physical size of your room, it's all the things in your room. So if we went in here and we have all these doorways, we have all sorts of obstacles that are naturally created by the doors and the door openings. You can see the doors here, how they're placed. So I do have a clearance. I have a good clearance of 25 inches. I have a good walk-through space here, but I really don't have a lot of storage. So putting just a base cabinet in here where we could store things is awesome, and it sets up a center where we can both prep food and eat too, because there's not a lot of space for a table. So typically, when I place countertops, I use the countertop wizard. 99 out of 100 times when I place countertops, I use the countertop wizard. I never, ever, ever use countertops and trim. And the reason is, when I use countertop wizard, I'm actually using real companies' catalogs. I'm using Metro Quartz. I'm using Cambria. I'm using Silestone. I'm using, name them, on and on and on. Now, this is one exception. If I wanted to place a countertop right here, I would actually click on this button here. I would scroll down to a catalog called RoomTop. RoomTop is a generic countertop program. I can go to room top. There's a feature here that says countertops. I always choose a square foot top, and here's why. When I drag and drop a square foot top, it never puts seams in or gives me the hatch marks telling me a piece is too big or such. I have the flexibility to do anything I want to this. I will right-click on the countertop, as all of you should be familiar. I will then edit shape, and here's another trick. A lot of people, when they move these lines, they right-click and they choose Add Line. If you choose Add Line, it actually leaves the original point there, and you have to go back and delete those sometimes as you modify the countertop. I never do that. I shouldn't say I never do that. I do that sometimes on purpose. If I just left-click on that line, I can move and extend it. I can say Extend 12 inches, Enter. I can left-click on this line. I can left-click on this line and move that one 8 inches. I just typed in 8. Now I can go to my right-hand button. I can say right-click on this point. I'd like to radius this corner. I'd like to radius it 8 inches. And I'd like to take this point over here and always make sure you get the point, because if you're radiusing a line, that's something completely different. Hold on just 1 second. Hold on, I'm not doing that right. Why aren't I? There we go. I was clicking in the wrong spot. We'll make that an 8-inch radius. And when I come back out of here, you'll see that I've modified this countertop. I can actually go over to my cloud catalog again. I know everybody's seen me go to this a million times, but let me go over to my cloud catalogs again and choose a different manufacturer. Let's go back to 2020. Let's go back to and choose something like chairs and stools, which will be, as I scroll down, there should be something here called chairs and tables. Let's go down to stools. I'll scroll down and we'll grab a stool. Did that probably too fast. Let's just grab a small one. There we go. Let's just grab this one right here. It has a small footprint. We'll click out here. We'll go ahead and we'll add one. And let me see where I just added that. Hold on just a second. Let me do that again. Let me go ahead and hit add. There we go. We can move this stool and have it face any direction that we want. I'm going to turn this to face this direction, and I'm going to duplicate it. I'll say duplicate, and I will right-click and duplicate again, and I'll simply drag these into place. I'll drag one over. I'll drag this one over, and this one's going to be facing the wrong direction, but because I'm late, I'm just going to leave it. When we come back in and we take another view of this, let's zoom up. Let's take a look at it. Oh, you know what? I have my door open, don't I? So let's zoom into this room, and I'm just going to tilt down a little bit here. And you'll see that I've placed that countertop. Now, obviously, that's not a real pretty countertop. I haven't put the other countertops in. If I wanted to change that countertop, all I need to do to change that countertop is right-click on it, highlight it, go to its attributes, go into variables again for the millionth time. I'll click on this. I'll simply come over here and say, let's just put stone on this. Right now it's got a laminate, so we'll just go ahead, we'll put some stone in. I like the Carrara under the marble section, so I'm just going to go ahead and put Carrara in. We'll go ahead and we'll click OK. And then if we take a look at this again, you'll see that I have a more realistic countertop in there too. So it's pretty quick and easy to be able to do that. Now, let me show you the last two items, and both of these are really quick. Oh, by the way, notice how awesome my floor is now, the one that I traced and added before. All right, so now let's take a section. Let's move in here a little bit, and actually let's move up. And I want to look at this side of the wall. One of the coolest things, or one of the things I saw online that I really didn't think as much about to me was the fact that walls are storage too. You know, I think of walls as having shelves and cabinets and so forth, but it was talking about maximizing your wall space. Let me show you how you could do that in 2020. We come back out, go over to our floor plan. There is an option under items called SketchUp. If I click on SketchUp, it takes me to the 3D warehouse. I can type in just about anything you can imagine. I could type in, let's say, pot rack. If I type in a pot rack, and click on this, you'll see here that there's all sorts, there's probably thousands of pot racks in this list. I can click on one. I can say, I want to look at this pot rack right here. I can actually take that, download that, and put it in my 2020 drawing. Let's type in knife rack, like the picture we just saw. Again, knife racks will appear. I can go down and make a selection. I can choose a knife rack. I can click download. I can say SketchUp 2014. By the way, right now you want to download in SketchUp 2014 models only. Don't try the 16s or 17s yet. You'll get an update from us shortly where you'll be able to do that as well. I'm going to go ahead and place this on a plan and turn it. I'm going to slide it right up against this wall. And when I place it, I'll right-click on it one more time because I want to move it up and down, because right now it's on the floor. I'll say, let's make this 47 inches off of the floor. And if we go back and take a quick look, I've added the knife rack to the wall. So now I'm maximizing my walls in my small space. Very cool. Now, last item, very last item, and then I am going to do any catch-up on questions and so forth. 11.7. Everybody watching me right now, raise your hand. Who has loaded 11.7? All right, right now I can tell you it's only about 23% of our users. 11.7 is only a couple weeks old, but you need to load it immediately, and here's why. There's one huge, huge feature. It's actually the best feature that's been added in probably at least 5 years, and this is going to change the way you work. This is phenomenal. Everybody wants to do this. Everybody wants to go to a perspective. Everybody wants to click on the 360 panoramic view. Everybody wants to create the virtual reality images to show their clients. I just clicked on the 360 button here. You know, everybody wants to go through, click on these items, and click publish, have it build these so they can give these absolutely spectacular images to their client. Or they want to use the camera button down here in the lower right-hand corner. Now, when you click on the camera, what it does is it takes the image that you're working on, it takes that image and it turns it into a high-resolution image. But the downfall to that is, or the drawback to that is, it makes you stop and wait until it's finished before you can do anything. In 11.7, 2020 has added a feature here called Render in Background. You notice it says Creating 3D Renderings? It's actually starting a rendering, and in a moment, while you're watching my screen, a little button is going to pop up down here to the right to the right of this green item. It's going to pop up on the screen and tell me we're rendering, and you know what's really cool about that? What's really awesome about that feature is that when you tell it to make a 360, a virtual reality, or a high-definition image, while it is building that image, you can actually go back to your floor plan and continue working. I can go add cabinets, delete cabinets. I can draw a brand new kitchen. I can open up 3 more plans. I can start 2 more renderings. And the whole time I'm doing that, it's rendering. If you notice the words here, it's rendering in the background. So now you have the ability to create these awesome high-end images for anybody that you want, and you're no longer worried about it prohibiting you or limiting the work that you can do, because it does it somewhere else while you continue working. You'll actually see down here at the bottom of my screen, it's actually building this image. Notice it's building the image while I can go in and add other items. I can go grab, a square foot top, or I can go in here and say I wanted to get a countertop. I want to go into a predefined top and grab a 45-degree top and drop it on my floor plan. I am working while it is rendering. That is truly, truly a game changer. If you haven't downloaded 2020 11.7 yet, you got to do it now. And if you're looking for even more detailed training, we have a really great training crew now that we go around and we do regional training. So you'll see here in a couple weeks, they'll be in Puerto Rico, and then they'll be in New York, Atlanta, Quebec, San Francisco, Boston. So here's a good schedule. You can also go to our website, 2020spaces.com, and find training on there, which is just training.residential, and you can see all the times that we're coming to you. And I can tell you, Vanessa runs that department, and we have an awesome, awesome instructor named Katya, who every time I do a webinar, she's the last call I make because she always teaches me something before I start. So I highly recommend that you guys do that. Visit us at 2020spaces.com for any more information. And I always want to end on a big thank you. we're really proud of being able to work with great companies like you to help you provide awesome experiences and spaces to your clients. For those of you that are new, we're really looking forward to working with you. But I just want to thank you on behalf of 2020 for giving us not just your hour of your time today, but all the time that you spend with us, working with us, and all of us together partnering to give awesome spaces to the end consumers. We're really proud of that and grateful to be able to work with you.